יום ועוד יום אני חי בתוך חלום ושוקע בתפילה כמו טביעה בים של אהבה. יום ועוד יום הזמן איתך קצר כסרט והשקט שברקע נותן מרחב מחיה לקולך. יום ועוד יום נזכר שעמדנו מעל המגדל ואלוהים מעל ואיך הירח וכל צבא שמיים עמדו אז מלכת לשם הברכתו של העם. מה אבקש עוד יום ועוד יום בזרועותייך ועולמי יהיה מושלם כמו האלוהים למעלה. מה אבקש עוד, מה עוד אתן לך מחיי. נזכר בסיפורך הילד שאותו הכרתי טלטלים לראשו וחיוכו תמיד ואת הילדה שם את שמך לא זכרתי. יד ביד פסענו והאל גילה לי את שמך. מה אבקש עוד יום ועוד יום בזרועותייך ועולמי יהיה מושלם כמו האלוהים למעלה. מה אבקש עוד, מה עוד אתן Almost Shabbat Shalom. Hello, hello. Thank you for being here. Yes. Well, this was a song I wrote a little while ago, and it just came to me to play it today and to be with it today. And so, almost Shabbat Shalom. Yeah, I'm in this new tent. It's Southern California, but it's quite chilly outside. So this is a tent that we put out here in the yard. So it's nice and warm. The acoustics is good too, actually. So music is communication. Music is a language, right? There is something that just came up, and this is what I wanted to share with you today. It's really important. It's really important how uncoincidental things are coming together or falling through language, right? Music is language. You notice it doesn't matter what country you're from, wherever you're from, it doesn't matter. But music is it doesn't matter. Music is universal. Music is worldly. It doesn't matter where you come from. The minute we hear music, of course there is a taste. One would like this music, the other one would like that music. But aside from the taste, which is like whether I like salt or not, or whether I like spicy food or not, or whether I like sweet food or not, it's still food, right? And I recognize it as food, whether I like it traditionally or not, or whatever. So is music. It's interesting. And so let's remember that. I want to keep on remembering that and reminding this when we're talking about how we're communicating one with another, especially during this during this Quranic time, right? How are we communicating with one another during this Quranic time? Interesting. And this week realization, every week, every day I have a realization, and it's something. How does it funnel through the end of the week? So it is coherent and it makes sense in one big sit down, right? We're talking about, I remember growing up and throughout the time and recent years and in politics and whatever, talking about another war. There was World War I, World War II, there was World War III. Oh God, and this will happen, this, and this will happen, this what will happen, and this what will happen. And the preservation, the fight, the war is not like another regular warfare. It's not like a boom and that's it. It's our consciousness. That is what we are here to fight for. And to preserve, and not just to preserve, but to allow for transformation. That is really what we are up against, not as far as the consciousness, but as far as those who are trying to suppress it, and those who are trying to manipulate it, and those who are trying to manipulate us, and succeeding in many ways in believing whatever agendas and whatever stories that are out there, and it's that they want us to believe. And many of us fall for that. Many of us fall for that because we've been bred to believe. We've been bred to believe stories of somebody else. Literally, we've been bred. We've been cultivated. Our ground, just like a tree, needs its fruitful soil. Our soil has been fed with all kind of rubbish, with all kind of, there is also some good stuff, and many people, and some people will choose what you want to eat and what you want not to eat, what you want to intake into your body and what you don't want to intake into your body. And so the same thing is with information. Information is food. Information and knowledge is food. So we've been in a place, we've been in times where we've been constantly fed, almost like preparing us for our slaughter, preparing us for being taken over, for just like with the push of a button, boom, and suddenly we say, how suddenly did that happen? Well, it's not really sudden, is it? We've been really bred, we've been prepared, we've been pushed to this side and then pushed to the other side, and been given a lot of things to believe. And when I say we're given, it is, yes, it is we're given. The question is, do we take that? So I want to start to bring it back to how is it tied to this weekly portion, to this weekly Torah portion. And it fascinates me every day how everything is really funneling through that, and the knowledge and the wisdom that comes out of it is just mind-blowing. And so this weekly portion, we're in the portion of Noach. It talks about Noach and the big flood, right? The big flood, and earth went through cleansing. So there are two issues that I want to talk about here, is the flood and then the Babel Tower, the Tower of Babylon, right? And so it is not the stories and the wisdom that comes through these times is not only for these times. It's not only for the times of thousands of years ago. It is especially right for these times. So picking up on this information, on the food that we're being fed, going to this portion, to the Noah portion. Right, so there is the flood, and the flood really cleansed the earth. So we're not going through a flood now, but we are kind of going through a flood, right? It is not a cleansing of with water, but it is cleansing in a different form, in a form that fits the current time, in the form that this current time created, aka a virus, or the theft of our consciousness, the hijacking of our consciousness, taking our consciousness, taking our understandings, and manipulating it to a way, and it's been over time. It's like a dough. It's like I'm preparing a dough for cooking with it or baking with it, and I put the flour and the water and the oil, and I'm just like, until I work it, and then it becomes really ready to be done something with it. And so the flood cleansed the earth, and this is what is happening now. It is really a cleanse of earth, where not just of earth as a physical matter, but of our presence, of our consciousness, of our thoughts, of our energies. Everything is being cleansed. It's like taking this big bowl and sticking it into a dishwasher. And this is really where it is, and it's really up to us to choose. Do we go through? How do we go through? How do we go through this cleanse? Because in Kabbalah, we know that this world, and in Judaism, this world is really a hallway, a walkway before you enter a living room. So let's say you go into a house and you open the door, and we're going through this hallway, this long hallway, until we reach the living room. So now we're really at the edge of that hallway. You know, and when people ask me whether we're talking about this or they're asking at work, or when are we going to go back to this normalcy, to this normal times, to these times where we can get together and we can have all these huggings and all these places and all these coming together and parties and no masks and all these kind of things, and you know what? It is not going to go back to where it was. I mean, think about it. You played with a toy when you were 5 years old. I mean, when you're 80 years old, you're not going to go back to play with the same thing. Now, of course, the stories are a little different, but the outcome is the same, right? I mean, this is, you're not going through necessarily a trauma of cleansing, of spiritual cleansing or physical cleansing, but you're going through some kind of a growth, some kind of an evolution, right? So you're not going to go back to where you were 5 years ago. And this is exactly what it is. We're not going to go back. We're evolving, we're changing, we're going through, and we as humans, as adaptables, as adapters, we are adapting. And what we are adapting is not necessarily to what we're being fed, but adapting to how things are shifting and how we are shifting in our perception of what is happening. And that is what's going to define the way of how we walk through this hallway. We're towards the end of this hallway before the living room. And this is as far as really what is happening, as far as the cleansing, as far as this purification, You know, in Judaism, we went through Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, looking into our actions and how we were and how I preserved myself, or how I allowed myself to be influenced by outside experiences and by outside energies that affected my decisions. And now, really, it's coming to a place where it's all these realities, all these truths are just coming through a bottleneck. And we face many realities. Many realities are coming to the front. And it's like, I'm going first, no, I'm going first, I'm going first. It's like going into a highway where you start with 4 lanes on the ramp, and then it becomes 1 lane. It's like you have all these, this guy wants to go first, no, this guy wants to go first. It's that is how, this is how we are. This is where we are now. And so we are coming to this place of realizing how do we want to be. And so we're already towards the end of this hallway before the living room, right? And so I was thinking about the highway, and it kind of took me really on a highway. And so we are in this place of realizing what is happening, and some are realizing, and some are not realizing. And those who are not realizing are not in their natural place. They're not in their natural state of human experience. They're not in that natural place. And when you're not in the natural place, we're affected by all these emotional changes, and automatically responding to these emotional changes that are happening from outside world. Oh, this is going crazy, I can't handle this. And then when we're in this emotional state, we're not able to make a decision that is neutral from any emotional attachment. So if I want to look at something, I will look at something like a map rather than being in this emotional place. Now, it is easier said than done, of course, because like the example I always like to give, thumb in the door, close the door on the thumb, my whole body is a thumb. I don't just isolate my hand and say, you thumb, you be in pain, let me think. Yeah, right? It doesn't work. So we are in that space, and many are in that emotional space. An example is like if I go in the mirror, if you go to the mirror and you look in the mirror and you say, okay, this is who I am. You look at the mirror and you say, this is who I am, this is who I am. You define yourself by what you see in the mirror, meaning this is the body, this is the hair, these are the eyes, these are the jittery emotions, these are the nervousness. You say, oh, you're tired, oh, you're this. And you say, this is who I am. What am I saying here? What are you saying here? We're saying that this is the definition of everything that is possibly can happen with me, right? So I'm limiting myself based on this moment in time, which is time is not linear, time is going up and down in like a vertical. And so I'm saying, this is who I am. That's it. This is who I am. It's like an elevator. You go from floor 1 to floor 50, and you say, okay, you stop at 25. This is what the elevator can do. That's it. I'm in 25. But it's not, right? And so when I'm in that place, I define myself in the mirror based on that emotional state, that physical state of that particular moment in time, which is spiral and circular. And so I'm limiting myself to exactly that experience of that morning in front of the mirror. Okay, so what happens that morning? You felt great. You felt wonderful. I am at the top of the world. This is who I am. Great. 2 months later, something happens. 2 months later, something happens, and you feel as low as grass, right? And you feel that your emotional state, everything is, why? Because we're fickle. We're going through up and downs, and we're going through withdrawals so we can come back. It's like a slingshot. We go backwards so we can fly further. So, but never mind, you are 2 months later, you're in that place. So now that is who you are? But no, that is a stage of your experience. That is a stage of who you can be now, who you could be later. But it's like saying, I'm the car. No, I'm the driver of the car. I can go fast, I can go slow. The car is not defined by the speed that I'm pressing the pedal on, if that's the right English. Doesn't matter, the car will go whether it's English or not. But, you know, so if I drive 100 miles an hour, it's the same car as I drive 25 miles an hour. So the car is not defined by its speed. The car is defined by who is pressing the pedal, the gas pedal, to the ground. This is exactly the same thing when I stand in front of the mirror. Because this is the potential of what it can be and what I am now. But this is not who I am. So it is the same thing with the cleansing. If I identify myself with that moment in time, that I'm not in my neutral state, I'm not in my מצב הטבעי, in the natural state. I'm not in my natural state of being, which is full expansiveness. It's like standing in the middle of a football field and stretching my arms, and vast possibilities, endless possibilities. Where I am today is definitely not where I was yesterday. Always striving to be better, right? To be better than my predecessor, my yesterday. But sometimes I will go back in order to go further. And sometimes the more back I go, the farther I'll go through, the further I will sprint forward. So this shift, this going through this hallway on the way to the living room, is the way where I'm adjusting. You know, think about this. We go through this hallway, and we are going to meet this person over there, and we're fixing as we go through this hallway. Think about it. If you've been through these houses, you fix yourself last fix, kind of last, or you're going through the stairwell to go to the house. You're fixing yourself. You know, ladies will take out a mirror. You know, I will take out my phone to look if the forest has a hair or a tree on the side. You know, so we're fixing ourselves during these times. So you go and you prepare yourself to come through that hallway towards the living room, right? And this is exactly what is happening. We are fixing ourselves. We are preparing ourselves for what is yet to come, because this is you can feel that this is a transition time. This is time of transition. This is not really where it is, right? Yeah, I remember in one of the movies, Marigold Hotel, I think, it says, the guy said there, at the end it will be good. If it is not good, it is not the end yet, right? It was like something like that. So we're preparing for that final, for that transformation, for that jigsaw puzzle that sits right in place, right? So this is what we're going through. This is the flood of Noach, the flood, the Mabul, and this is what is happening now. What is going to define this is actually our language. It's actually our language to ourselves and our language to others. And this is where the second story of the Babylon Tower, the Tower of Babel. Now, the Tower of Babel, where the story level is that they built a tower, they want to reach to the skies and to create a name for themselves, right? But what happened before the times of Babel, everything was one. Everybody was in unity. There was one language, there was one understanding, there was one goal, there was one direction. Everything was one, everything was in the singular. And then what happened is, the things start getting a little mixed up. Exactly, Coco agrees to that. Got a little mixed up. How is it mixed up? The egoic self, the fear, the injection of this dogmatic understanding, that start changing. And what happened? The language got confused. So Babel in Hebrew has two meanings. Bilbul, confusion, and balal, immersion or assimilation is even better word. Assimilating. So the confusion comes from the assimilating. And what is the assimilating, if we're looking at our times here, is the information that we're getting. Just like I said in the beginning of this broadcast, the information that we are receiving is the breeding ground to how we grow, is the breeding ground to how we progress. It is the breeding ground of what we take out, because what we bring in has to come out. So if we bring in fear, if we're listening all day to fear, to what is, did this, oh my God, this is going to happen like this, and let's fight against this, and no, he cannot do that. We're bringing this in. This is the same thing that will go out. So the balal part of the word, the assimilation that goes into our consciousness is creating confusion. And the confusion is stemming out of this, is creating that separation. And what is in this information? In this information, not disinformation, D-I-S, but this, T-H-I-S. What's in this information? Disinformation, D-I-S, disinformation. I heard once in an interview, Denzel Washington said that if we listen to news, if we listen to news, we're disinformed. If we don't listen to news, we're uninformed. So it doesn't matter how we look at it, we're being fed lies. If we're not listening to it, we're not getting it. But if we listen to it, we're getting lies, we're getting stories that serve an agenda. And now during these times where everything is digital, everything is possible, everything is with the press of a button, right? All these smartphones, the smarter phones these are, the dumber we become, you know? I remember as a kid, before we had all these phones or we had any cell phones or hardly a phone, we remembered 50 or 60 phone numbers of friends. How many of you can remember a phone number? So many phone numbers. Maybe you still can if you still have a flip phone or... So this breeding ground prepared, so to speak, prepared us, but more prepared the ground for the people that are in a manipulation power, in a place of manipulation, to prepare so just in the press of a button, they can change the way we think, the way we operate, and that goes to all this, what's happening during this Quranic time. You know, this Quranic time is really a blessing in disguise. There are hardships and hard times, and I'm not here to say anybody should be here or should be there, God forbid. But everybody is taking it and everybody is experiencing it in different ways. And so there are these preparations that happened over the years and over these centuries that prepared this ground, that prepared this with everything, with technology. So how are we talking to one another when we receive information on the internet, right? When we receive information, where is this information coming from? I posted a video last night with a little, some words around that, but this is about the same thing. It happened to me a few times when people put things up on the internet that is really turns out to be not true. Not true because it is a part of a propaganda. And it doesn't matter if you're left, right, middle, backwards, upwards, downwards, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you're a Republican or Democrat. Either or, they lost the answer. I believe they lost the essence of what it is to be each one that they are proclaiming to be. So it doesn't matter, but it does matter is where this information is coming from. And just like we make choice outside of the emotional place, like I talked in the beginning, outside of this emotional place, outside of this place that we are identifying with, the same thing when we get information like that. Where are we making this call of judgment from? What place in us we are inhabiting? So when I confronted one person not long ago, but there have been a couple, 2 or 3, that I confronted for information that was taken out of context to create an illusion of a different reality that somebody else wants them to believe. And they believe that. And when I confronted them, they said, unfriend, I believe in this. You see, so the thing is that this was exactly what I described in the video that I shared yesterday. And if you go on my timeline from last night, check it out. It is really the information that we receive fits what we want to believe in. Why? Because the system which we are using is listening and learning what we are, is learning our choices, is learning our speeches. You know, your TV in your room is listening. Your phone is listening. How many times did it happen to you that when you talked about green pepper, suddenly you get green pepper commercial on your phone the next day or even an hour later? Everything is learned, everything is recorded. So now what is happening, it's being tried to be made official. Just so you know, we want to do this, but this has been happening already. It is just the next generation, the 5G generation. It's not coincidental they're calling it 5G. I mean, we're fifth dimension. It's a whole, this is something just came to me now, so maybe just out of my, we say in Hebrew, out of my finger, whatever. But It doesn't matter. What are we being fed is exactly what kept us breeding, what kept us bred to this point. And so all this information that is being given to us, where is it coming from? Is it coming from the same system? So to try to heal ourselves with the same system that made us sick in the first place, think about it. To heal by the same system that made us sick in the first place. It is like trying to go back into a relationship that somebody beat you up and say, no, they're going to heal me. They're actually my healer. Well, they are your healer when you leave. But they are your healer because you left and you learned from that. So that language, the confusion in the language that happened in Babylon is happening now. Now you can say, one can say, well, that happened also last year, Babylon. And we're reading the Torah, and it happened the year before, and the year before, and the year before. And it'll happen maybe the year after and the year after. But here's the thing. The time, we are in time that can feel compressed, is more dense. The time that we are experiencing now is denser. It's always in a spiral. So think about a vortex. It's always in a spiral, like going from down or going from whatever point. And we're repeating the same pattern, but we're still in balance and we're still in a flow. We're in a circle, and the circle is the perfect straight line. If you think about it, the circle is a perfect straight line. Think about Earth. If we're standing and we're just going straight, right? It looks like we are straight, but we're always on the same line. So the circle is a perfect line because any point in that circle is going to be the next point, which is there is no a good or bad point to enter a circle and to go in a straight line. So we are going up in a spiral, and we're experiencing the same things that we've experienced 5 years ago maybe, but we're in a different state of within ourselves. We're just in a different state. And so here is another thing to look about in our communication. This is kind of a side note that just comes to me, but if we were who we believed we were 5 or 10 years ago, we obviously realize today that we are not the same people that we were 5, 10 years ago. Because whatever experiences we went through and whatever understandings that we have realized, we're not the same people. So think about the same thing about today. That today, I will not be the same person 5 or 10 years from now, right? So when I look at any situation that happened in my past, or you look at any situation that happened with you in a relationship, on the way that you chose a relationship, on the way that you've been in a relationship 5 years ago, 10 years ago, with yourself especially, but how it manifested with others, look at that with the eyes that you had at that time. Bring yourself to contract yourself to the time that you were at that time. Because if you look at that time with the eyes of today, you're doing yourself a huge disservice. You're really hurting yourself for no reason. You're judging yourself with the eyes of today. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Because today you are a completely different person. Or not completely, but a different person with a different understanding. So if you look back and you say, oh, what an idiot I was, that's not serving you, and it's not serving your growth, because you keep putting yourself down. So look at that with the eyes of back then. And the eyes of today are the forgiving eyes. So let's take this Babylon time, this Babylonian time, and take it from a place of balagan, of bilbul, of confusion, into a place of singularity, into a place of togetherness. Take this place of confusion into a place of one, because we really have there is only one truth. And the one truth is love and acceptance. Everybody experiences this differently, but everybody wants to feel safe. Everybody wants to be needed. Everybody wants to be connected. Everybody wants to be seen, and everybody wants to be loved. So it is a time really to see, to look at all that is happening and to question. We have this gift of analyzing. We have this gift of, some people call it our higher self, higher power. I call it the soul level. On the soul level, ask these questions. Don't be a herd. Don't be a sheep that is being led to. Why? Because you don't have to be a sheep anymore. There is no need for that. It served its purpose probably, because we're here in whatever it is, in whatever capacity. But ask the question. If you get a piece of information, the fact that you read it on the internet means nothing. Actually, it can be more dangerous than helping if there is an information that is misleading. So ask the question. be in this, take this Babylonian time to come back, not to create a tower to be separate, but to create a unity to come back together. This is the part of, yeah, the part of coming together. Yeah, so almost Shabbat Shalom. Whew. Thank you very much.